I have been living on the coast all my life, and one thing I've really come to appreciate and be fascinated by is the ocean. Here in UC Santa Barbara, we're surrounded by it, and we're actually quite lucky to have such a high-quality bridge between our worlds, the Tidepools. The intertidal zone is the area of the coast that may be submerged at high tide or exposed at low tide. Many creatures call it home, and has a huge impact on our local environment here in Goleta. Even our campus is deeply connected to the ocean. Much of the wildlife we observe here directly or indirectly subsists on nutrients gathered from the ocean or connected systems like the marsh or sagebrush. One of the things I've noticed a lot growing up on the beach is the trash that's left here. Even in marine protected areas like the one I'm in now, we can still find evidence of human life. I've grown to notice the interconnection between the systems that surround us. Within shouting distance of the university is a protected habitat. The marshland, the kelp, the sagebrush, the lagoon. They help us by providing food, recreation, the nutrient cycle of native plants and animals, and the location of our beautiful campus. The ocean is a vital part of our campus ecosystem. Yet, we still seem to have trouble managing our waste. Even in my dorm room or in class, I am inside of and part of a unique ecosystem, interconnected with the plants, animals, people, and buildings around me. This could be described as socio-nature, or the idea that society and nature are inseparable. Christopher Baer says in his paper that socio-nature is a concept that is used to argue that society and nature are inseparable and should not be analyzed in abstraction from each other. He also remarks that the concept is rooted in, but operates as a critique of, Marxist approaches such as the historical materialism and post-structural approaches such as actor network theory. This means that the things that we do on campus affect our ecosystems and oceans through things like runoff, human activity, litter, noise, and light pollution. Things that can happen in the ocean can directly affect our lives too and experiences here on campus, like storms, tides, erosion, winds, and algal blooms. There is life everywhere, and one simply can't control it. In the tide pools of California, one should not be surprised when one finds life. It is everywhere in all shapes and forms, swaying, crawling, or swimming around you. Each and every one of these plants and animals plays an important role in the ecosystem, living on. According to the philosophy of deep ecology, every living thing has an inherent value, regardless of their connection to us. Deep ecology aims to preserve this by shifting the perspective that natural resources are only important for utility to something more sustainable. It promotes the idea that none of these tide pools is less important than our campus. Even if some tiny snail out here will never have a direct impact on my education, it still deserves a life and the environment in which it belongs. Using this lens of biocentric value, it's easy to see that many of our commercial fishing practices, as outlined in the paper Aquacalypse Now, treat the ocean as an endless resource that can be exploited and collected. This paper shows that the exploitation of certain fish stocks alter the ecosystem's resilience to change. How long until these stocks are so depleted that our very own kelp forests collapse, overrun by jellyfish and urchins? Before changes like these cascade to intertidal zones, cutting off a vital source of nutrients to coastal environments. Every plant and animal is integral to the ecosystem. Let's take a closer look to see what I can find while tide pooling. See me eye to eye. So what I think I found here is a shark egg. Shark eggs have a leathery casing and they're usually anchored to the seafloor. This one looks like it washed up and it's already empty. Judging by the size and shape, it's probably a swell shark egg. Swell sharks are small scavenger sharks that live in shallow waters and they grow up to about 2 feet long. They interestingly lack a large dorsal fin, like most other sharks. Very interesting find. Sharks like these lay their eggs and play a valuable role as small predators. They help manage the populations of small invertebrates and crabs, while also serving as food to larger predators. They are great scavenger sharks. They can be considered secondary or tertiary consumers.
I never had a choice.
What I've captured here is a Pacific rock crab. Pacific rock crabs are usually about half a foot wide and take on red and yellow hues. The crabs mostly like to hide in covered areas like this cave, and they have black-tipped claws and long antennae that distinguish them from other crabs found in the area, like yellow rock crabs. Notice the spines on its carapace. They're actually pretty sharp. Also, check out the hair on its legs, which I found pretty cool. It looks like it might be feeding here on some prey. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be some kind of fish. These kind of crabs have powerful connections to land since they have the ability to walk on land. They are good scavengers, but also act as herbivores and help manage the populations of kelp-consuming anicoderms like sea urchins. Just a small side note, I noticed this while editing the video, but you can actually see a prickly sculpin in the cave. Do you see it? Right here is its eye and tail, and I think he's pretty cool. He's blended right in. Just another example of how packed this ecosystem is with life. While you might not notice it at first, what we're actually looking at here is a California black sea hare. They're slimy and darkly colored, which is a perfect camouflage for a wet rock or a piece of seaweed just drifting around. They're often quite difficult to find. They get their name sea hare because of their two sensors on the top of their head, which kind of look like bunny ears. Fun fact, these guys are actually the largest species of gastropod in the world. Gastropods are a group of animals that you could call slugs and snails. Basically, any sea slug, any garden snail, this is the largest species in the world, which I think is pretty cool. Being the largest sea slug out there definitely has its perks, because the black sea hare has very few predators. It usually grazes on macroalgae and is able to concentrate and secrete a toxin derived from the type of seaweed it consumes, which makes it less edible to things like birds, crabs, and so on and so forth. While starfish, crabs, and lobster often feast on smaller juvenile sea hares, fully grown ones like this definitely present a challenge. As you can see, I have pretty big hands and it's already much larger. I'd say about the size of a football, maybe a bit bigger. Sea hares contribute to the environment through grazing on algae and kelp to prevent overgrowth. Overgrowth of kelp could make it difficult for other species to survive, so these grazers help keep the concentration down while fertilizing other plants on the way. To me, they are fairly interesting and strangely cute creatures. I dive and tide pool frequently here at UCSB at Devereux Beach and at Campus Point, which is actually within a state marine conservation area. Conservation of marine resources is important because small pockets of shoreline like this one cannot be fished and are typically harder to access recreationally. They become a refuge of wildlife where rebuilding and incredible biodiversity of these ecosystems can continue with reduced human threats. The UC Reserve System, which is employed by UCSB and others, has aided in protecting nearly 50,000 acres of land, including forest, marshland, and desert, and they also included 50 miles of protected coastline like this one. Understanding socio-nature, deep ecology, and marine conservation has helped me more deeply appreciate and understand the environment as an amazingly interconnected and fascinatingly beautiful place, right in my backyard.